Hey, what is up, viewers? And it is Ralph and Patrick Barney into video, and this is episode 2 of Meditation Week of Isaiah. And today's verse comes out of Psalm 104, verse 34, and it reads, "May my meditation be pleasing to him as I rejoice in the Lord." And that's what that verse means. So this morning, or this afternoon, let's get into it. It's time for our church recap. And we're going to start in Philippians 2 for this first one. And Philippians 2, I didn't watch the whole sermon last night whenever I watched it. I only watched like a few minutes of it. But Philippians 2, we're gonna start at verse 5. And here's what it says. "In your relationship with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus." And that's all for the verse portion of that sermon. Now it's time to get to the next one. Oh, by the way, Glenn preached this, and this was having the mind of Christ. I didn't watch the whole thing last night. Now we're going to go to the book of Colossians. And in Colossians, we're going to start, we're going to start in chapter 2. So we're going to start in Colossians chapter 2, and this was a sermon that Rob preached yesterday. And we weren't actually in person yesterday, and I'll tell you guys why in a moment. But first, Colossians 2, verse 20, and here is what it says. "Since you died with Christ to the elemental spiritual forces of this world, why, as though you still belong to the world, do you submit it to its rules?" I believe that's right. Yes, it is. Next one, Colossians 3. And this is actually a familiar passage in Colossians 3. Colossians 3, verse 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 12, and 14. And we're going to start in verse 1. Here's what it says. "Since then you have been raised with Christ. Set your hearts on things above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God." Verse 2. "Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things." Verse 4 reads, "When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory." Verse 5. It reads, "Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature: sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry." Verse 6. "Because of these, the wrath of God is coming." Verse 8. But now you must also rid yourself of all such things as these: anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips." Verse 12. "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience." And finally, verse 14. "And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity." And that is all for the verse portion of that sermon. And now it's time to get to the good part. And the first note I wrote down was, "Victory has been spoken in the ears of my people." Now, if you guys are probably wondering where the heck that even came from. Somebody actually shared this at church yesterday, and they were I don't know what they were doing. They wrote something down. They wrote this down. I don't know if God gave them that, or if they had a feeling. I don't know what, but there's a verse in Isaiah that says God is one. I almost forgot. Now we're gonna also go to I almost forgot 2 verses. All right. Before I continue with what I am talking about, I almost forgot 2 verses. Galatians 2, verse 20. And here is what the verse says. It reads, "I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me." And finally, Matthew 6, verse 21. This is familiar. Matthew 6, verse 21. This is talking about treasures in heaven. Here's what it says. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And now that is all for the verse portion of that sermon. I already read the notes to you guys. So for a couple honorable mentions, I did tell you guys a few moments ago that we were actually in person yesterday. So what happened was there was some ice outside, and whole congregation, we weren't able to meet in person yesterday, and we had to meet online, and the only people that made it to church yesterday were all three of the pastors. All three of the pastors were the only people that were at church in person. The rest of the congregation was watching online. What was memorable? There was a lot of memorable moments from yesterday's service. Um, First of all, we didn't have worship, and let me just tell you guys why. Zoom doesn't work very. Zoom does not like music too much, and we just decided we're not gonna play music, and we're not gonna usually we have somebody leading us in worship, playing the guitar, but because we were online because of the ice and stuff, we weren't able to do that, and we skipped the worship. Um, Another honorable is during the sermon that Rob preached. I'm not gonna play you any parts, but before we went into the first verse, Colossians 3, Rob, actually, one of the congregation members, it's somebody I know, I'm not going to say the name, just for reasons I don't want to, bring it up and stuff. But there was somebody in the congregation that actually let Rob know that he actually forgot something, almost forgot something. And Rob was like, hold the phone. And he said to the kids last Sunday that they could bring, like one thing to church for Sermon in the Sack and something they got for Christmas. There was a lot of good things that these kids got for Christmas. Oh my goodness, I really liked all of them. And now what was really memorable, well, of course, um, Rob will yell a few times whenever he preaches and stuff. And what was so funny whenever I watched that, whenever I was in that Zoom session, the Zoom service yesterday, Rob said that since Rowdy and Glenn were the only people that were at church in person yesterday, um, Rob thought that he was yelling at them, and it was just so hilarious. What was so cool, and this was the first time that this was ever referenced, but we got new chairs last Wednesday. So since we're still in this pandemic, and we're still having in-person church, we're using chairs, like, those foldable chairs, that you guys use, that we use, that you guys probably use whenever you have a cookout and stuff. We use those metal foldable chairs. That's what we used. Well, on Wednesday, our new chairs were delivered, and what was so cool about yesterday was that Rob had, so basically, just a little story behind this. So whenever we have a Zoom meeting, whether it be a Sunday morning service, a Bible study, or not Bible study, prayer meeting, Rob uses a computer. It's there's a there's a little like table. There's a table with all the important stuff like sanitizer, like hand sanitizer. So basically, basically the way it's like put together is there's sanitizer, hand sanitizer. Um, there's a computer, and there's actually a like there's like a it's a it's a dash, not really a dash cam, I want to say, but it it was basically, it's a, oh yeah, webcam, and basically that's how Rob can do the Zoom meetings and stuff. So there's a computer, and then there's webcam on the top of the computer, and Rob can get it out and show the people online who's at church and stuff. But what was so cool was that Rob was panning the webcam around. He took it out of the computer on the top, off the top of it, and he was like panning it around, showing the people that were watching online, all the brand new chairs that we got and stuff. And what was so funny was one of the congregation members that was watching online said something about Rob being a model and stuff, and Rob said some do it the Price is Right, and that just made me laugh. And FYI, just a little LOL for you guys. Whenever Rob was panning the camera or the webcam around, I don't know if my mind was doing this or what, but I was thinking oh, Rob should be the next mall on The Price is Right. And a little funny story before I end the video. Actually, let me read you something quick before we continue. There's a verse in the Bible I just want to read you quickly. Matthew 4 verse 4 says, Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." Alright, now that's out of the way, let's continue. So, there was this one episode of The Price is Right. It was in, I think, 2014 or 13, where the usual host and the announcer, they do the calm on down type of thing, and what was so cool about this one episode was where Drew's the host. He's the one that hosts, but this one episode, it was April Fool's Day, and The Price is Right, they always do something different for April Fool's Day. This one time they had Bob Barker on the show, and this one time they had this guy from the Craig Ferguson, I guess, late night, I don't know, Tonight Show something. But what was cool was, it was a switch off, or it was actually flip flopped. So instead of Drew hosting, the models were hosting and announcing, and Drew and this announcer was modeling. And I could see Rob being a Price is Right model someday. LOL. Oh my goodness. Anyhow, that's gonna do it for this church recap. I just hope you guys enjoyed. That's gonna do it. Thanks for watching. Till next time, me again, viewers. In every way, God's way is always the best way.